Good morning, Lighthouse, and welcome to a conversation that I'm going to have with Nathan. Nathan, why don't you introduce yourself a little and just share a little bit more about you and how you're connected to Lighthouse?
Yeah, thanks, Dominic, for having me. So I went to UT in 2014 to 2018, uh, and I started going to ACC my freshman year, making it my home church. And so around my junior year, or end of junior year, early senior, I started serving with Lighthouse in the youth. Before that, I had served with the worship team playing drums. So maybe some of you might remember seeing that, although usually I'm behind the cage, so can't tell. But during Lighthouse, I served with Ricky, and I was counseling at the time they were either sophomore or junior guys.
Yeah.
It is
So
one
I
of the
think
two, but some of the guys you might know now they're seeing
they're college.
almost
No,
seniors.
they're sophomores in college.
Sophomores, okay, they're almost juniors though, which is like they're getting close. So like
Yeah.
Evan Locke, Rick, Brandon, Arnold,
Arnold. Yeah. hmm
Frank,
For sure.
Tim,
Yeah. Yeah.
so those guys. It's crazy. It's crazy. I saw them last couple Sundays back for your ordination,
Oh,
and
yeah. Yeah.
they're all back for the break. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great to have you, and it was great to for you just to be able to reconnect with them. So we're having this conversation because I really want Lighthouse to hear kind of what's next for you, Nathan. Like, what can you share just a little bit more about what you'll be doing for the next phase of your life? Kind of what you'll be doing, where you'll be going, how long you'll be there for. Just give us a quick rundown of some of the basic details of what's next for you.
Yeah, I'd love to share that. So I am preparing to go into mission field
Mm,
overseas for
mm-hmm.
a 2-year term
Okay.
to Bulgaria, which is in Eastern Europe, if you all don't know where that is. And I had originally got into it after going to a missions conference called CrossCon after graduating.
Mm-hmm.
And I had gotten connected with an organization there, which then kind of led to talking with them and finding out about the organization that I'm going with, which is a
Right.
small nonprofit called Salt Ventures. So they work primarily in Bulgaria, where I'll be in ministry terms, working with students, at-risk students. The country is
Okay.
pretty poor,
Mm,
but they're doing better now. They are part of the European Union, and I'll be working with students like K through 12, just
okay.
doing after-school program type activities with them in hopes of discipleship and just
Mm-hmm.
building relationships there. But at the same time, I'll also be working part-time at a local IT company there
Okay.
that sells Microsoft Dynamics, which is like a customer relationships management system software. So I work
Okay.
part-time in a normal like secular setting,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and also doing ministry with students.
Nice. Nice. So, can you just kind of share like what led you to decide to go to Bulgaria? Like, can you kind of take us through what God was doing in your heart? Because uh, you definitely were not studying like software sales, studying to like at UT to go into software sales, right? So, like what were you studying at UT, and then like how did God move you from what your plans were to what your plans would be coming up.
Yeah, yeah. So while I was at UT, I studied petroleum engineering, uh,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very Texas thing,
Yeah.
or really just a Texas thing. There's a couple other states that do it. Um, I had grown up, so if you all don't know, I grew up in the church. My dad is the pastor at my church, WHCC, and I was been exposed to missions and gone on many trips, like short-term trips, as some
Mm-hmm.
of you guys have gone on. with Lighthouse. So I was exposed to that, but never really thought I would want to go overseas or become a missionary. I thought
Right.
it was more of a special thing for special people, and that
Hmm.
was kind of it. Although I've always been very interested in other people's cultures and the other world and other countries.
Hmm.
So I think it really started actually at CMC West. So my family and I, we
Okay.
went to CMC West Coast before we had
Right.
it in Houston in
Hmm.
2015 that some of you guys
Okay.
might have went.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, Actually, yeah, a
Yeah. That
few
was
of
my
the
first
high
one. Yeah.
school, the senior boys might have went, like
Right. Yeah.
Daniel.
Yeah. Daniel,
They were sixth
Silas.
graders.
Yeah. Yeah. They're seniors now. It's crazy.
But yeah, before that one, I went to the West Coast one, and it
Hmm.
was the first time I had really heard the mission story, at least throughout the whole Bible, like
Mm.
that's God's plan,
Right.
not just in like that Jesus told us to do, but God has been planning to want to
Hmm.
reach all peoples of all nations from the
Right.
very start
Hmm.
using his people. So that was very shocking to me. And also, I'm just feeling a little convicted of like
Right.
me being here with so many resources and church, great church, uh, and just not really thinking about what was going on outside of the world. And it's hard.
Hmm.
I think a lot of high schoolers, you're focused on school, you're trying to do well, you don't have time for even current events.
Right. Yeah.
So that's
For
something that I
sure.
think even in college, I wasn't very good at, but I slowly started to learn
Hmm.
more, hear about more things.
Right. Right.
Uh, so coming into college after my first semester, a friend, some of you all may know him, James Fang, he
Hmm.
had invited me to take a course called Perspectives,
Yep.
which is kind of like
Yep.
a world missions course, kind of going on throughout the whole Bible of how God wants to reach the nations and
Hmm.
how God has used various people in different time periods to reach other people in other
Right.
countries.
Hmm.
So I took that course my second semester freshman year, and I
Okay.
think with both of those, I started to I think God started shaping my heart to at least become more missional
Right.
locally.
Hmm.
Um, but going overseas wasn't really in the picture until I thought about it near the end of graduation.
Okay.
Because the idea was possibly to use petroleum engineering, work for like a oil gas company, and maybe be
Hmm.
able to go overseas with them to
Right.
a
Because
close
that's really
country.
common with like oil exploration companies to be able to, you know, be stationed or kind of have your base be in the States, Houston, like Pennsylvania, wherever, right? But then be sent off to, different different countries around the world as part of the oil exploration teams, and stuff like that. So yeah, I can totally see how you could feel like what you were studying was intentional, right? And it was missional and it was connected to a plan for sure.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was that was the hope.
Hmm.
Because actually, what I was studying, it's actually called geosystems engineering.
Hmm.
Um, and it's a mixture of hydrology plus petroleum. And then I
Okay.
ended up staying an extra semester to get my petroleum degree.
Okay.
But I really didn't enjoy too much what I was studying.
It,
But it seemed like the best path, like
hmm.
a stable path, sort of stable, even though oil gas not stable anymore. But uh, engineering seemed like didn't seem a good move to go back or change majors. I didn't want to
Right.
stay in school that much longer.
Yeah.
So that was the goal. But after graduating, I was struggling to find work in that field. It's pretty
Hmm.
difficult. A lot of my classmates also struggle with that, and
Hmm.
many of them have also pivoted to other things.
Mm.
Um, but I went to cross conference in the winter of 2018.
Okay.
So after graduating.
Right.
And it was there that I was just wanting to explore options, find out more about what kind of things there could be. Actually, really was looking for something like a 3 month kind of thing in
Okay.
2019
Okay.
to kind of test out and
Mm-hmm.
see how that would be
Right.
while still looking for work.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up um, connecting with a organization called GoCore, which is like a mobilizing organization. So for those of you that don't know what mobilizing is, it's just like to it's kind of like a recruiter position where
Mm-hmm.
you're recruiting and encouraging others to
Right.
go into the field or to go do
Mm-hmm.
the work. And so I had talked with them and began to look into that. And the short story is I ended up applying through them, was planning to go do sports ministry in 2019, um, but ended up deferring based on feeling that it was a little rushed and that
Right.
God wasn't calling me right at that time yet.
Okay.
I did get to go in that summer on a mission trip with a few people in my church to the Middle East, which helped to kind of just see what like the day-to-day life was of a missionary.
Mm-hmm.
Because in that trip, many of the trips that you guys have gone, you'll have a VBS or a program or something. But
Right.
on that trip that I went on, we really just stayed with the team and saw what they did, and they took
Mm.
us around and we
Right.
lived life with them. I
Right.
lived
Right.
life with them for like a week and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up right after that getting to work, finding a job in a chemical plant in Port Lavaca. So still oil and gas, but in a
Mm-hmm.
different sector,
Right.
for some of you that might know. And I think through that experience of just getting to work, getting some real life experience with working with regular people, some believers, some non,
Mm-hmm.
that I realized that I enjoyed the business aspect of things a little more. So when I reapplied in 2021, after the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
uh, that I was looking for something a little more along the lines of like business as mission, or at least
Right.
opportunity where I could
Mm.
still work. And
Gotcha.
I think right now where my heart is, of course, I've always been had an affinity towards the Muslim people group,
Mm-hmm.
just because they're so similar yet so unalike and
Right.
so lost.
Right.
But
Mm-hmm.
also right now with the times, I think many of you all know how more people are becoming agnostic or
For
just
sure.
like, spiritual, but not seeking out real faith for anything.
Mm-hmm.
That I want to be able to be in a setting where I can interact with adults and coworkers in
Right.
that secular space.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's hard nowadays to invite people to church. People
For
think,
sure.
at least in America context, people think this about church, people think that, and they're all like negative or
Mm-hmm.
hypocritical thoughts and things.
For
So
sure.
being able to be in a space where I can, in that space, at least try to live out Christ, like many of y'all's counselors do. So one person that comes to mind for me is Ricky. So I always think about how Ricky's
Yeah.
very good at being intentional at work and things.
Mm-hmm.
But that is kind of how I ended up choosing Bulgaria. Didn't really know too much about the country then,
Right.
but it was more of the opportunity to serve there with that team and also get to know a smaller team
Mm-hmm.
and kind of have that personal connection with my teammates since they're a very small organization.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, that's just amazing to hear how God's taken you on this really kind of long-winded route and taking you here and there and kind of giving you a couple head fakes to kind of throw you off of what he ultimately wants for you, right? But I think well, at least for me, when I as I listen to your story, Nathan, what I hear is um, faithfulness. I hear obedience, right? And like that's what God has always called us into, no matter what, um, no matter what we'll end up doing it with our lives, no matter what he wants us to do with our lives. No matter what plans you think you have for college, for beyond college, right? Like he's asking you to be faithful. He's asking you to be obedient. And then in that, right, like then that's where God is going to help you truly enter into what his will is for you, whether it's the actual things that you had planned for, or it's something completely different that you might not have seen coming at all. So, with with how with how you're going to end up in Bulgaria, like, what are some of the things that you are hoping that God will do in your time there? What are things that you're excited for? What are things that you're anticipating, looking forward to? If you can share some of those things with us, I think that'd be awesome just to hear of how that all might begin to come together for you, Nathan.
Yeah. So let's start with some of the things I guess God will hope. Well, let's start with the lighter stuff and then go into the deeper
Sure.
stuff. So we'll start with things I'm excited for. One would definitely be just, getting to live in Europe and exploring that
Right.
culture. Because actually, I've only been to Sweden as like a little kid once.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
that'll be new and fun and exciting. Also living in the city. So I'll be living in capital Sofia, and first time kind of living like in the city, use public transportation.
Yeah.
No car.
Right.
That would be nice compared to Houston.
Yeah.
Houston
Gotta
and
drive
Austin,
everywhere. Yeah. Just got to drive
cars.
everywhere.
Yeah.
For sure.
The other things, just I think really being able to have a close-knit team. So right now we meet once a week just online because some of them are there already, and
Okay.
some of us are still here stateside.
Right.
But just being able to be a part of a team that's wanting to grow and serve those people in the community while we're doing our work. And so my teammates, they'll be actually doing a health initiative with the students to connect them with hospitals or clinics and give them opportunity to explore that avenue for a career path, as well as like health education.
Okay. That's awesome.
Other things that I hope for, I think the main one is really, I think oftentimes, and I've been told by other people as I've been support raising and just seeking out advice, is that like oftentimes for those on the mission field, we feel that we need to like do a lot or get things done and serve others, but ending up that the more important aspect is just to grow closer to God, and through that and being faithful, that no matter the results, that we're still getting closer to him, knowing him better, building that relationship more.
Right.
So my biggest hope is definitely to come back like with a stronger relationship with Christ, some more disciplines instilled. I think for some of you that have traveled to Europe, you might know like the general pace of things is not like America.
Yeah.
And so that'll be an adjustment of just like learning to slow down or learning to not have to get everything done the efficient, quick business manner that we've been taught. And that's
for sure
instilled in our mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other things would be just being able to finally get to serve like in a cross-cultural context. And also I would hope to be able to start at least spiritual conversation and possibly, Bible studies with coworkers or with students that are interested in discipleship relationships.
For sure.
Other than that, food would be a good one. Their food is more Mediterranean actually. So you may think it's more like European, like mid-Europe kind of food, but it's more like Greek and Mediterranean food.
Cool.
It's pretty good.
Nice. Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of the things that you've been sharing, of the things that you would hope that God would do, obviously, are our prayer requests, but can you highlight just a few things that you really would love for Lighthouse and to be praying for you for? I think that's really what I would love for us to be spending the rest of our time today doing, is to be spending time in prayer for you, and then even just to be able to revisit at a later time, like, hey, you know what, we need to be preparing to be praying for you, to be sending you off. Well, even if we're doing it from Austin, right, just to still have to give you that support, recognizing that as brothers and sisters in Christ, that we can continue to give you that support no matter where we're located. Yeah. So what are some prayer requests that we can give, that we can be praying for you, for your team, for your organization for?
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Dominic.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. One, probably do like 4 or 5 points. One is definitely just the adjustment to the culture once I'm there, as well
Right.
as it'll be the first time I'm like a real minority. And so
Yeah,
I think that
sure.
will bring lots of pros and also some cons.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I pray that God will use that to further His kingdom, and also that it wouldn't be, that I wouldn't let the cons be a hindrance.
Right.
But that God can use that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the other thing is, just as I'm preparing to go, I'm planning to leave in June, so I'll still be at home for the next like 5 months. Just pray for my time with family,
For sure.
as we're still like learning to adjust together,
Yeah.
and spending the time well together
Mm-hmm.
before leaving.
Definitely.
Um, Another one would be for community there.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I have my team, um, all the other like expat people who are going, they're all girls. It's not a problem, but it's important to have fellowship with the same sex people.
Right.
And so
For
just pray
sure.
for like yeah, for God to provide like other believers that are guys,
Right.
either expat that will come or local guys to be able to have community and
For
fellowship
sure.
with,
For sure.
and accountability and encouragement,
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely
as
going to
well
be
as
really
like
important. Mm-hmm.
finding a church there as well, just to be able to
Definitely.
have, yeah, because doing ministry alone is never a wise idea.
No, no, not
It
at
has to be
all.
done together as a group. And so
Definitely. Mm.
that's a big prayer request, just to find guys
Yeah, for sure.
there, or have guys provided.
Yeah, definitely.
The other one is, kind of talked about it, just adjusting to the pace, I think, and
Hmm.
being focused on not just the work, but on Christ Himself. And so
Sure.
really instilling like more disciplines. That's what I think in the next 5 months is what I'm trying to focus on more,
Mm.
actually. And we can
Okay.
always be growing closer to God, and doing better in our habits and things.
Right. Right.
But
For sure.
that would be a big prayer request, just over
Hmm.
there using. I expect that there will be more downtime than I think, and so
Right.
using that time wisely,
Mm.
spending it with God, spending it in prayer for
Yeah.
others as well.
Yeah.
And then the last one would just be praying for my relationship with people back home while I'm there.
Hmm.
I'm not the greatest at keeping up,
Yeah.
but
Sure.
through the season of like support
Mm.
raising, I think, and also having to update people, I
Right.
think has been a really good blessing, and I've enjoyed it. And so just being able to continue to do that, but also even on a personal note, like reaching out to those back in the States,
Right.
balancing the time of, and balancing like how much I'm communicating with people back home
For
versus how
sure.
much time I'm spending with people
Hmm.
there that I'm serving and doing life with.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a handful of different prayer requests. I really want to encourage all of us to be spending time praying for you, now, praying for you before you go. I'm praying for you while you're there as well. So, we definitely want to continue to keep you in prayer, Nathan. I think for me, it's really important for us to continue to support all those who've contributed to helping make Lighthouse what it is today. Um, and so just because, you're no longer a Lighthouse counselor doesn't mean that the, the, the prayer and the love and the support of that we want to give, we definitely want to be sending that your way as well, Nathan, to make sure that, you know, everything that you're doing, that God is leading you, that God is taking you to where He wants you to be in the relationships that He wants you to be in, to be discipling people that He wants you to be discipling. So, uh, time is not the issue here. It's again, yeah, it's truly the relationships that are the most important. And so we're not just thankful for you. We're not just thankful for the time that you've invested in Lighthouse, but we're also thankful for the way that God is using you. And we want to encourage you and be sending you off with lots of prayer as well. So that's what we're going to do today as well. Again, appreciate just for you sharing, Nathan, just what God has been doing in your life. There's ways in which you've been obedient to God's calling, and for the next steps that He'll have in your life. So, man, much appreciated. And we'll be praying for you today.
Thanks, Dominic.